All right. So, this is another one of the Universal Monster crossovers that I've been doing on my Patreon as polls to see which ones you guys wanted to see. And yeah, this one won in the latest one of Sherlock Holmes and the Invisible Man. I think this is the first time I've ever talked about like a Sherlock Holmes anything here. So, as always, if you guys would like to be part of the polls over on Patreon, just hit the link below. Head on over to my Patreon. You guys can start sending... So if you hit the third tier, you guys can start sending me requests for videos to do here on YouTube, as well as check out all the other stuff. The first tier, however, is just movie reviews, which I haven't really been to the movies lately. But if you guys still want to interact with polls, that's totally fine. Anyway, so this one won. We've still got one more of the Universal Monster polls, and that one will be next, but I'm probably going to do, just for sake of completion, I'm probably going to do the runner-up as like a later story, excuse me. Anyway, so let's get started with Sherlock Holmes versus the Invisible Man. So this story actually runs congruently with the movie. Well, congruently for a moment. So Holmes is Holmes in his place, his home on 221 Baker Street with Watson, and they're just kind of like in between cases, and Holmes is just chilling at his house, playing the violin, smoking his pipe, when he hears like a loud knock at the door, and he's like, odd. So he goes over there, and Holmes opens the door, and he's like, hello there, can I help you? And it turns out it's a guy from the village that the Invisible Man had plagued. And essentially he tells them, look, about a week ago we had a visitor wrapped in bandages in a dark cloak, and then when we tried to arrest him for being violent and attacking the innkeeper, he took off all of his clothes and turned out he was invisible. And Holmes is like, sir, I am not in the belief of invisible men. But he's like, that's the thing. Like, then he told him about the rampage and everything, and he's like, look, Mr. Holmes, you have been known to tackle wild and unsolvable cases. I need your help to solve this case of this invisible man. I didn't see anything, but it caused such a ruckus. I did see people getting. He wasn't there to see. This guy wasn't among the people who went to arrest the Griffin, but he was there in the town when he was running around causing a muck, and he saw him knock over the baby cart and the baby carriage, smash things left and right. So he's like, can you help us, please? At least figure out the case. And Sherlock is like, right on. I'm in between cases, so I will indulge you, my good sir. So he tells him, great. There's a meeting tonight with the local police in our village. If you would like to tag along, I can take you there. So, and yes, I know there are cars. This is supposed to be the 1940s. We're just kind of the thing about the Universal monsters that they're kind of nebulously in the 1900s, the late 1800s, early 1900s. So it kind of works. So the guy takes Holmes and Watson to the village where in the movie, this is where the big meeting is, where everyone's where the constable is I'm here to take statements and whatnot and figure out what the fuck's going on, so I can just tell everyone, look, it was all a fucking hoax. Let's just get on with our lives. However, that doesn't go exactly as it should, because while Holmes is there, he's inspecting. Holmes immediately, because it's Sherlock motherfucking Holmes, he comes in just big dick in a locker room, and all the other cops are like, Sherlock Holmes, it's Sherlock. And the police chief is like, all right, Holmes, I've heard about you, but this is my investigation, and there's nothing here. It's just a horrible prank. How you got wrapped into it is beyond me. And he's like, sir, do you know what intelligence is? Because you insufferably lack it. So Holmes goes into... he asks, where did this invisible man, become the... where did first people see him become invisible? So he's taken upstairs, he's investigating all of the stuff, Like, he's investigating it, unknown that the Invisible Man's already in the room. Like, if you guys remember, if you've seen the movie, then you'll remember that there was where Jack, with the help of Paul Kemp, were going into the bar before he went down there and started causing a ruckus again. He had gone up there to get his lab equipment and his notes to try to find it so he could find a way to change back. However, Holmes goes up there, so now Jack has to be like, oh shit. So he's like trying to walk around. He even, like, as Holmes is walking around the room, he tries to mimic Holmes's footsteps so he can he doesn't get heard. And he's like, that's Sherlock Holmes. I wasn't expecting that. So Holmes is like, odd, because he can obviously hear, like, there's a bit of an echo in the room, but he leaves, even though he kind of is like, this is odd. It's odd, but I'm going to come back. He does take, like, some of the he even asked the police, like, hey, can I borrow this can I take this for research? And even though Jack Griffin doesn't say anything, he's like, you what the fuck? So he takes some of Jack's books. Jack manages to get the rest to Paul, and he's like, excuse me for a minute, Paul. I'm going to go down there to get something back. So that's when, if you remember in the movie, that's when the big scene happens where the Invisible Man, like, throws ink in the police chief's face, then smashes his head in with a chair. During all that commotion, that's when Sherlock is like, by God. So him and Watson are, Watson is like, Holmes, I've got his book. And he tells Watson, go, take it outside. We can't let him have whatever this book is to this man. I can't let him have it. So he escapes. So Jack chases after Watson, and out there is, like, Paul Kemp, who's, like, trying to look all like, I'm just here. I'm just here. Sherlock, of course, notices this. Jack gets away, and he has to force Paul to meet him later. But Sherlock does see Paul Kemp, and he's like, oh, Professor Paul Kemp, aren't you? He's like, yes, I am. You came down here for what reason? I came down to hear. I heard the commotion about this Invisible Man, and I came to see if it was real or not. And Sherlock's like, Cap. But he's like, go about your business, Professor Kemp. But Sherlock is curious, so and he's like, that was Professor Paul Kemp. He's a brilliant chemist. And he's like, Sherlock, are you insinuating that this man had something to do with tonight, with this Invisible Man? And he's like, he obviously knows something. So Sherlock and Watson follow Kemp, and do see, like, the door open, and then it drives off. So Watson and Sherlock, Watson's like, hey, we should probably inform the police. And Sherlock's like, no, that will only scare him, and we'll lose him to the winds. So let's go after him ourselves. So they follow, and as they're sneaking in, that's when Flora and her father show up, and we get that big scene of, like, just Claude Rains eating the scenery, just chewing scenery for the sake of it. And that's Paul has also called the other cops, and Sherlock is just about to come into the room when the cops show up, and he's like, God damn it! I had him! I almost could sneak in there, you idiots! So the Invisible Man escapes, goes on his rampage, and now Sherlock is chasing after the Invisible Man, taking care, following every little clue, and actually, like, as he's continuing his rampage, Sherlock is always on his heels. Sherlock and Watson are always on his heels. It isn't until, like, he follows, like, a trail of destruction that he leads to Paul Kemp saying, like, hey, he's gonna kill Paul Kemp at 10 o'clock tonight. And yeah, so he goes back there. So they go there and they switch the big switch with Paul Kemp, and Sherlock is there. Like, Sherlock is there. He's following behind as Paul's like, 10 o'clock tonight. He said he'd kill me. Well, he ain't killing shit tonight. And yeah, Sherlock, blocks off the road as Kemp is about to be murdered. and Sherlock and the Invisible Man engage in a fight, leading to just an all-out fight. But however, the Invisible Man is stronger, and the only way he's managing to see where the Invisible Man is that Sherlock takes a thing of dirt from the dirt road and throws it on Jack's body, allowing him to like get an image of him so he can see him during the fist fight. But however, Paul, instead of being pushed down a cliff, this time around Watson tries to fire his gun at the Invisible Man, and Jack grabs Paul, pulls him in front of him, and kills Paul Kemp there, and leaving Watson stunned that he had just killed a man and accidentally. He's like, "It wasn't your fault, Watson. The madman had taken the gun." So yeah, he's like, "Dr. Griffin, this ends now. We need, your madness comes to an end." And he's like, "I think not, my good detective. My reign of invisible terror shall never come to an end." So, Invisible Man escapes, but this time, Sherlock, with a keen eye and a keen sense of hearing, does shoot and wound Jack in the leg. So it leaves a blood trail and forcing him to rest in the barn. Sherlock then gets all the police together. They burn the barn, leading him to come out of the force himself out of the barn and into the snow where they can see his footprints. And Sherlock tries to be like, "Don't shoot him!" and someone does shoot him dead. And that leads to the end of the movie. And Sherlock tells Flora "I'm sorry that your beloved Jack Griffin was a madman, but he did kill a lot of innocent civilians, but I am sorry for your loss." And yeah, it's just and Sherlock and Watson and him are go home, and they're like, "An invisible man. What other horrors are out there?" And Sherlock's just smoking his pipe, "What horrors indeed, my good Watson. What horrors indeed." So there you go, guys. That is Sherlock Holmes versus the Invisible Man. You guys tell me in the comments below, what did you guys think of it? And once again, I'd like to thank everyone who voted on this fanfiction idea over on Patreon. Thank you. And once again, if you'd like to be part of the polls, just hit the link below, head on over to my Patreon, and hit the first tier. And yeah, other than that, hope y'all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.